Great to have you with us. Now, scores of individuals and families are rendered homeless at Nungua along the Tema-Accra-bound stretch of the motorway during a demolition exercise there yesterday. Now, these persons are counting their losses. The Ministry of Agric Sunday morning razed down properties belonging mostly to private individuals who, according to government, have encroached on land belonging to the ministry. The exercise saw various structures, including a church building, collapsed by heavy earth-moving machines in the presence of their owners and personnel from the police service. Joy News' Parker Wilson returns to the area to engage with some of the victims.
Omo bubu dining na mbacho endo ahin fana dai.
Mbacho mi da mi wofa ni poshi biso.
I see. Ajman benai.
Mbacho mi ye business.
Ye business.
Mbacho.
O kora.
Mbacho.
Omo be sen.
Omo chinchin.
Omo nkosko wende. Adentia.
Any baby idea in your be 20 no. Mantima mama cosco na misika make it as so scan so ayirandra. Timiniska biara o mi wa modibet cosco.
Sika be sana ye ka ho asemi.
Mi di adia mi ton misika 2.5. And na ayira timiska biara mi di. Makola no ma modi cosco.
Inti sisi bubu eye modan dena obeye sisi e.
Yes, strong say omo boy na omo nya baby mine. Etimi ye baby wasu na yenda.
Inti se beye se 3 days, 4 days na say bibi anko so a obebo brand saying then I mean how are you going to feel?
Me bo mi brand yi. Se me nye baby na many nam sir.
Nampache for say.
If lazy.
Well, tears in her eyes. Lizzie tells me essentially that yesterday, because of the exercise, she lost about 2.5 million. That is 250 Ghana cedis, because that is the money she has from her trade. And because of the situation, her kids, about 4 kids, were not able to go to school today because of the situation. They don't have anywhere to sleep. And that if by tomorrow, a day after tomorrow, 3 days, government does not intervene, then it means that they wouldn't know what they would have to do with their lives. So this is the situation here at Nungua Farms, where her structure is I must stress that is a temporary structure on the premises of the Agric Ministry here at Nungua Farms, and then it was demolished by the Agric Ministry. The exercise was carried out by the Ghana Police Service, led by Superintendent Kwesi Ofori yesterday. We'll be speaking to some other victims and find out how they are coping with the situation, and in going forward, what government would have to do for them, because they are saying that they would want government to intervene. They need some structures so that they can quickly have a few things to do with their lives. For Joy News, I am Kwesi Parker Wilson.
Now, moving on, Love News is learning that authorities of Ajman Senior High School are threatening to sack or deboardinize students they suspect to have revealed widespread sexual abuse by their teachers. Joy News carried a report last week in which students revealed they had told an investigative committee that teachers forced them to stroke their manhood to ejaculate. Following the report, school authorities are said to have hauled some of the students before a disciplinary committee, threatening them with sanctions. Parents are protesting the action and called on governments to intervene. Erastus Asaridonko has more in the following report.
Female students of Ajman Senior High School have been given explicit accounts of how some of their teachers subjected them to sexual abuse.
He told me he wasn't satisfied, so I should take his penis. So he told me use it to masturbating. Then after that, he released.
Into your hands?
Yeah, he did.
Came from his house to a junction. He parked. Asked me that, why don't I want to have sex with him? And I told him, oh, I can't do that.
They shared their stories, hoping they would get justice in a peaceful environment to learn and prepare for their final exams. On the contrary, they have become subjects of ridicule and victimization in school. Some have reportedly suffered physical abuse for minor offenses. Those who shared their stories with us have been hauled before a disciplinary committee. Their fate will be determined today as authorities threaten them with dismissal or demodernization. Parents are scandalized and they want government to intervene.
Government should come to my aid. Even if she could be transferred to another school to be able to write her final exam, I will be okay with that. Because she's been victimized, they say she will be dismissed for breaking school rules. But the teacher who should be directing her path has rather introduced her to fornication. I feel very bad. I can't sleep.
Municipal and regional education officials will not speak to the issue. District Director of Education will not confirm or deny receipts of reports of the alleged victimization of suspected students. He threatens to drag us to the National Media Commission over the interview with the students. Public Relations Officer at the Regional Education Directorate confirms such reports have come to the attention of the Directorate, but he cannot give details. Meanwhile, the investigative committee is expected to submit its report to the educational authorities today. Reporting for Joy News, Erastus Asaredonko, Kumasi.
Now, moving on, the Ghana Police Service says it is still investigating that alleged sex scandal on a Sudan UN mission, which has led to their recall from duty. Director of Public Affairs of the police, ACP David Eklu, who spoke to my colleague Bernice Abubedu earlier on News Desk, said the service is yet to identify the personnel alleged to have been involved in the scandal.
Difficult to conjecture any punishment now. Let us wait till the investigations are done. And it will also come with recommendations from the United Nations. We'll look at it before we see the way forward.
But here in Ghana, if we have to have some disciplinary action or disciplinary sanctions for these police officers, if the claims are substantiated, what are they likely to be?
If it is a crime that the law says can be punished anywhere, they will face court action. But if it's not a crime but a misconduct, then there are also rules and regulations for taking them through internal service inquiry disciplinary procedures. Yeah.
ACP, what is the proper behavior or code of ethics for personnel who are deployed to such missions with regards to their sexual relations?
Yes, before you are deployed for a UN peacekeeping missions, you are taken through pre-deployment training, which is done here internationally. And then when you get to the mission ground, you're also taken through another level of training. One, you have to respect the customs and traditions of the host people of the host country. You have to treat them with courtesy, and you must avoid any sexual relations with the locals. Whether it is by consent or not, it is a no-go area for peacekeepers. Yeah, those are the conditions. Yeah.
And so they are not under any circumstance allowed to have any sexual relations with...
It is a no, it's a zero tolerance level, no area.
How are we likely to be affected by this if it turns out that this indeed is true and we had some of our personnel engaging in sexual exploitation?
Well, as I said, when it comes to these issues, it is first individual responsibility. But we would have to take steps to avoid any future occurrence. As I told you, we have police officers serving currently in 4 UN missions: Sudan, Somalia, and then Central African Republic, including South Sudan. So I don't think from the report that came, the UN itself acknowledged the excellent performance of Ghanaian police officers on peacekeeping missions. And they also indicated in that report that this incident is not widespread, it's an isolated case. So it is not widespread, it is not characteristics of Ghanaian police officers who go on UN peacekeeping missions.
Interesting. You mentioned that the UN has a zero-tolerance policy for sexual abuse and exploitation. And that's why I'm asking, in cases like these, even though you mentioned that we don't have an example here in Ghana, what is likely to happen to the country that offers its men for UN missions if it is found that, yes, indeed, these police officers were exploiting the women in Sudan, and some of them we are hearing are pretty young women? What are the implications for us as a country and as a Ghana police service?
What I said is that there are two levels of punishment. The UN itself has its own punishments per the MOU. Internally, there are also disciplinary actions that will be taken against the officers involved.
Are we, for example, is the UN likely to say we won't accept any troops from Ghana again because of this, if it's found out that is true?
I cannot speak for the UN. These are arrangements between the states and then the United Nations.
But you have a certain agreement, there are certain legal frameworks within which you work. We just help us understand in terms of such breaches.
It is not prudent now to start conjecturing until they finish the investigations before we know what line action to take.
Now, some men are not allowing their wives to take up contraceptives as they believe that may lead them to cheat or go into prostitution. The belief, fueled by culture, has stagnated the coverage of family planning practices in parts of the country. In the following report, my colleague Justice Beidu reports from the Northern Regional Community of Lepalsi on how this is driving up both birth rates in an already impoverished community.
I am in the home of Neloba. She's only in her mid-20s, but already has her third baby. Her children heavily malnourished. Her husband, Jagri Tali, has a first wife with whom he already has 10 children. Their story shows escalating birth rates in some communities in Ghana and how these vulnerable villages are struggling to cope. In our culture, when a woman delivers, you have to have sex with her within 3 months, he says. And it's a taboo to allow a woman to take up family planning. At the local clinic in Lepalsi, health workers are talking community members into taking up contraceptives. The stumbling block here is cultural beliefs.
Some of the men, they don't allow their wives to do the family planning. Because of that, some of them, they usually hide and come in the night and wake you up so that you attend to them. A woman can give birth 2 months or 3 months, the woman will be pregnant again. The child is not growing well, she herself is not feeling well. So because of that, you yourself, you become frustrated.
Birth rates have fallen generally across Ghana, in part because of increased access to family planning services. Interestingly, in places like Lepalsi, where resources to cater for population explosion are limited, the figures haven't been encouraging. With local economies still unable to provide basic amenities for already existing numbers, any further growth may only worsen the situation. Justice Beidu, Joy News, Lepalsi.
You're still watching Joy News today. Let's take these important messages. The news continues. NPP constituency primaries continues in parts of the country till tomorrow. The exercise since Saturday has been characterized by injunctions, suspensions, isolated chaos, and even death. At Tema Central, the constituency chairman Charles Boateng says the party must not neglect those who lost in the primaries. He says uniting and winning, the winning and losing candidates will impact on their success in the 2020 general elections. He was, however, addressing the media in Tema after a peaceful constituency primary.
According to Charles Boateng, the party cannot afford to lose the power it won in 2016 to the National Democratic Congress in 2020. Charles Boateng, who went into the party's primaries unopposed, believes the approach to victory will not be different this time around.
2020 is to reduce drastically the vote of the NDC in Tema Central. And I'm telling you, we are going to do it because I'm happy we have retained all the old executives. So the plan is working. And I don't mind appointing some of the people who lost the elections because for sake of unity. I'm going to call all of them.
An area which remains a big deal to the youth is job opportunities. Having acquired large tracts of land to undertake mechanized farming to create employment, the Tema Central constituency chairman Charles Boateng says over 1,000 youth will be engaged.
I'll be moving all around to look for employment for the youth. And I believe this time that they have retained me overwhelmingly, I have to make sure I also work to satisfy them. But I have said it before that we want to enter into youth in agriculture, mechanic farming. It's a very big thing that we are trying to do. And so we have penciled about 1,000 plus youth that we want to take them there. We'll be paying them, we'll give them monthly salary so that we can employ them. Secondly, we use that opportunity to also turn the agri sector.
Meanwhile, Naomi Akosio-Wusu, who maintained her seat as women's organizer with 384 out of 503 votes, says women empowerment remains her focus.
I have almost about 300 to 400 women as membership of the Tema Central Women's Wing. I will train the women. I want to give them a workshop. Most of the women are businesswomen, they are market women, normally they were the market women. So what we're going to do is we're going to give them training, bookkeeping, how to keep their money in case they are fortunate to have the mass lock and they want to do other business apart from what they have.
The party is hoping to beat the NDC in the 2020 general elections. Kwame Yankes reports for Joy News.
We'll stay in the realm of politics because former President John Mahama has charged the President Akufo-Addo-led administration to walk its talk in delivering on the promises it's made to the citizenry. The former president believes the hikes in the prices of petroleum products is a typical case of the government reneging on its promise to Ghanaians, contrary to what was said on the campaign trail. The former was talking during last Saturday's NDC Unity Walk held in Somenya in the Eastern region.
Although it has been heavily criticized that it is not being sanctioned by the party, former President John Mahama was accompanied by party functionaries, members of parliament and some former ministers of state, along with some dignitaries on the last NDC Unity Walk. Party faithful converged at Bong Junction early Saturday morning, marched to Nuaso, Agomenya, Odumase, Etwa, and to Somanya. Former President John Mahama himself acknowledged and responded to cheers from residents. The former president said the new patriotic party ought to be minded by its promise to relieve Ghanaians of fuel price hike burdens. The former president also blamed the challenges facing the implementation of the free senior high school program on lack of adequate financing and rushed implementation. He said activities at some state institutions, including the National Health Insurance (NHIA) and the Ghana Education Trust Fund (GET Fund), are virtually at a halt under the NPP administration. He also criticized the NPP for failing to honor its campaign promises, insisting it is incumbent on the present government to walk its talk.
In December last year, petrol was selling at 14 cedis, and we were told that it was too expensive, and that 50% of the petrol was made up of taxes alone, and that when they win and come into office, they will remove the taxes so that petrol will sell at 7 cedis. Today, petrol is selling at 22 cedis per gallon. I want to tell Nanado that it's not too late to hold a national stakeholders conference on free senior high school. We all agree on the concept of free senior high school. Where we differ is about progressively. Somebody decides that he wants to implement it within 3 years. You don't have enough dormitories. You don't have enough classrooms. You don't have enough textbooks. You don't have enough laboratories.
The opposition National Democratic Congress Saturday kicked its Agenda 2020 campaign strategy in Tamale with Mammoth Health War christened Unity Wins. Thousands of NDC loyalists and sympathizers of the party participated in the event led by former President John Dramani Mahama. Addressing the party supporters, former president said there is evidence to show that the MPP is not capable of running the country. The party's General Secretary Johnson Asiedu Nketia mocked the MPP for saying governance is not like planting cassava. He said in less than 100 days, the Vice President of Ghana was touting the success of the MPP government and yet turns around to say they are only few months in office. Minority leader Haruna Idrisu called on the president to rethink the implementation of his free senior high school program. He warned the government not to jeopardize the future of the children of Ghana. Martina Bugri's report for Joy News.
Now, the National Commission on Civic Education says it is revising its anti-corruption campaign strategy to involve leaders of local communities. Deputy Chairman Operations Samuel Asari Ekiamwa believes a holistic approach would make the desired impact and improve Ghana's ranking on the Corruption Perception Index. He spoke to Love News on the sidelines of a training program for metropolitan, municipal and district directors of the NCCE in Kumasi.
Ghana's 40% score, which placed her 81st out of 180 on the 2017 Corruption Perception Index, is the lowest since the country signed up to the index. Corruption is mostly perceived to be prevalent only in formal sector, whether public or private. Mr. Asari Ekiamwa, however, wants the fight to begin in homes and communities.
Corruption is pervasive. It happens in our homes, in the church, workplaces, before we even enter the political realm. So I believe that we need a very holistic approach to the fight. The private sector, businesses, should come along.
He wants government to fully employ the National Anti-Corruption Action Plan to fight the problem.
And for me, if we look at NACAP, the National Anti-Corruption Action Plan, which is a homegrown solution to the fight against corruption, we have all the answers there. And if government and all key stakeholders, the private sector and businesses inclusive, will all play their roles very well in the NACAP plan, I'm sure we will improve next time there is any survey.
Meanwhile, the NCC is partnering the European Union to roll out a new accountability, rule of law and anti-corruption program. The new area this program seeks to tackle is the negative impact of corruption on the environment. Patrick Asari Nelson is project manager.
If you look at the way even Leslie Galamsey is done, I don't think people always go through the right channels to get permits, even if they have. You know, some people, go through the back door, right? People bribe people within the districts and communities to stay in that. You know that, right? And if it even comes to what do you call it, issues like lumbering, you know, people go in there, they don't take the right permits, they cut corners, and go to do that. You sometimes even arrest people in the end, and they are not punished. Apart from education and awareness creation, if you cross the line, then the law kicks in. That is why, as part of the project, we have the judicial service, we have the police, we have the Attorney General's department, we have legal aid now, we have IOCO. Right. We also have Star Ghana, that is civil society organizations, and we also are going to be working with the media. So it is a total project.
Nana Ajman reporting.
Anochi Teaching Hospital is to set up an endowment fund to address challenges in healthcare delivery, maintenance and replacement of medical equipment, as well as infrastructure deficits will receive attention under the fund. Board Chairman Nana Efa Apinting says a preparatory work on the initiative is almost complete to pave way for the launch. He spoke as the Maiden Special Board Awards in Kumasi. Nana Ajman reports.
Frequent breakdown and maintenance of obsolete equipment have become a drain on hospital mega resources. Experts recommend a 4-year cycle replacement schedule to ensure high performance of key equipment. Anochi Hospital has received public support in diverse ways. Officials say recently inaugurated mother and baby unit, built through initiative of Rebecca Foundation and Multimedia Group, is the biggest. Notwithstanding, the hospital is still challenged and requires bold steps to address. Nana Efa Apinting is hopeful of the impact of a proposed fundraising scheme.
With the government's ability to support the regional and refurbishment needs of the hospital, still trained by community demands, it has become necessary for the board to address the seed partnership with progressive individuals and organizations in addressing their power challenges. I think that the CEO in several statements disclosed that the board has decided to launch an endowment fund. And I think sooner that we will go in and we will give the details so that we will try to help us. But we need your help. We appreciate what we have done, but like Oliver, we are crying for more.
The newly instituted CAT Board Special Awards seeks to recognize individuals and corporate institutions for their contribution to the hospital's development. Members of staff whose initiative have seen support come to the hospital are also honored. Dr. Richard Salome's social media post ignited a national discourse after Joy News' Seth Kwame Boateng's Next to Die special assignment documentary on the plight of mothers and babies at the mother and baby units. The result was the mobilization of resources by the Rebecca Foundation to construct an ultra-modern MBU. Dr. Salome is excited by the intervention but looks forward to the completion of the 40-year-old abandoned maternity block.
I must say I'm happy, but also challenged to do more because this is one of its kind that the hospital has thought it wise to appreciate members of staff. It also then brings to the fore that those of us within our facilities and within the government sector can also help push for change and better conditions in the hospitals to serve our clients going forward. And I believe that a lot of other people who are doing the same will feel that when they put in the effort, they also get appreciated. We have solved partially the problem with the maternal and child health, but I believe the main project itself, the 43-year-old building, is still standing. It's not yet done. And I know the president himself promised to get it done in his first tenure.
Nana Ajman reporting.
Still watching Joy News today. I am Daniel Daze. Up next is Business with Emmanuel Abwajiriafi.